Think about this for a second. Why do people go to college? Earn a living, increase your knowledge and competence. Motivation has both energy and directional aspects. So in this unit, Mod 37, we're going to be talking about motivational concepts. So what is motivation? Motivation is the feelings or ideas that arouse us to act towards a goal. It is a need or a desire. It directs our behavior. Motivation is the interplay of nature, which pushes us, and nurture, which pulls us. Motives are what drives our behavior. There are four perspectives that try to explain and understand motivation: instinct theory, drive reduction theory, arousal theory, and the hierarchy of needs. So let's start with instinct theory. What is an instinct? It is a rigid pattern throughout an entire species, and it's something that is unlearned. So it is within us when we are born. So, who influenced the evolution of instinct theory? Well, when you think of evolution, who do you think of? That's right, Charles Darwin. Rather than explaining the theories and all the different behaviors, instinct theorists simply name the motivational behaviors. So, what are some examples of instincts? What is known as imprinting on birds, how salmon return to their birthplace, infants innately reflex or root to the nipple to suck because it is a survival instinct. So, do humans, like animals, exhibit learned patterns? Yes, infants have innate reflexes and they root and they suck. So, what is the instinct theory? Well, first of all, instinct theory fails to explain human motives. It assumes is that there's some underlying motive or drive. Okay, instinct theory views our instincts as a source of our motivations. Motivation to survive is the most important of these innate behaviors. It is a survival drive to our motivations. So let's talk a little bit about psychological needs that create a drive. How do physiological needs create drive? Physiological needs create arousal and motivational states. So we have a physiological need for food and for water, and that creates that arousal that creates what we're drive for, what is referred to as a homeostasis, which we have talked about before, a balance. So when we're hungry, we eat to fulfill that drive, or thirst, etc. Okay, so that homeostasis is a biological homeostasis. It is a cognitive homeostasis as well, that we think and our actions are the same. When we lack something, we have a need that creates the drive, and that leads to that homeostasis, a balance in that internal state. The second one is called the drive reduction theory. Our behavior is motivated by biological needs. Physiological need creates the arousal state, which is a drive that motivates an organism to satisfy the need, creating that balance, that homeostasis. So how does our drive reduction theory explain how we regulate our body temperature? Here is a slide, for example, that tries to best explain that. And I'll give you a little chance to take a look um, how our body tries to regulate that homeostasis of when our body's hot and how do we try to cool down and so on. A need is a requirement. It is a necessity. What is a want? A drive forces or a compulsion that leads to our actions. So, how does behavior pulled by incentives? Needs are required for survival drives. Our impulses to act to satisfy our needs. Incentives pull us, whether they are positive or negative, to lure or repel us. Kind of that positive and negative reinforcement kind of a thing. So, how is our behavior pushed and pulled? If we have both a need and an incentive, that leads somebody to be driven. Think about the goals that you have in life. What stimuli are we driven to do to learn, for example? Is it just the A? Or is there an innate ability for you to want to learn something? If we associate a stimuli with a reward or a punishment, we are motivated towards those rewards and away from those punishments. Here's an interesting one that takes us back to unit one. Is curiosity a motive? Well, think about that. To be, um, or this was actually unit two when we talked about research, is part of that research comes from we have to be curious. And that motivates people to find answers to things. So curiosity definitely is a motivation. So let's talk a little bit about arousal and human beings. All right. We seek after an optimum level of excitement and arousal. Some motivated behaviors increase arousal. So, as you saw with Aaron Ralston, the hiker, uh, seeking a thrill seeker, um, people who jump from airplanes, parachuting, or climb Mount Everest. And these people are, they love um, the really tall amusement park rides and so forth. These are people who are highly aroused and seek for things that are going to arouse them. Or you have a guy like George Mallory, when asked, why did you do that? And he says, because it was there. It's just something to do. All right. To really look at the relationship between arousal and performance, there's what was known as the Yerkes-Dodson law. This has to deal with performing well in low-level tasks when we're highly motivated. When we are highly motivated, we do really well when the task is very easy. But then it evaluates how do we do when we're in a high-level task. What happens when we're highly motivated? And that's when mistakes often occur. Some high level tasks will lead to low performance due to high motivation. We get so excited during that really high level of activity that we make mistakes. And if you look at sports, the very beginning of games, you'll see a lot of mistakes because it is an intense situation. People are highly motivated, they're highly aroused. And so when they do that, uh, they tend to make mistakes. But after they settle down, things go a little bit better. I imagine the same thing happens in performance. If you listen to somebody sing, their voice may crack at the beginning because they're nervous. But as time goes on, they do better. Um, so as we look at the optimal arousal, this is again thrill seekers, intense music associated with people who are into that thrill seeking, listen to intense music, they eat novel foods, they get into risky behaviors. The reason is when we're lacking stimulation, we become bored and we look for arousing activities. And a lot of times for like teenagers, they like in Anderson Township, there's nothing to do in Anderson Township. So what do teenagers often engage in? They engage in drugs and alcohol because they're bored and they're looking for things that are um, more fun. Here's where we're going to talk about a guy by the name of Abraham Maslow and his theory of motivation. And he developed what is known as the hierarchy of needs. Do some people's needs take priority over others? Most definitely. So let's take a look at his hierarchy of needs. Uh, Basically, you start at the base, and before any other needs can occur, you have physiological needs. You have to have food. You have to solve the thirst. Those are safety needs that come after that. The world is organized and predictable need to feel safe. You have to have a home to live in. You have to be protected. Satisfying drives for hunger and thirst. You even get into sex first. To feel safe, secure, and out of danger would be second. To be accepted or belong to others. The need to have friends is the next hierarchy of need. Then we move into esteem needs. Um, and often esteem comes from that belongingness and love needs. As we feel loved and we belong, we feel good about ourselves, um, and so on. And we achieve, we are recognized, and we have respect. And that makes us feel good. So we take a look at people who struggle with their self esteem. These lower tier needs are not being met. Then we get into self actualizing. Now, for the longest time, this was Maslow's highest level, uh, to be our best self, to live to our fulfillment. This is our unique potential. This is where your teachers, your coaches, your parents see your capabilities, but you may not yet. Once you reach that, that is the pinnacle. And later in his life, he developed this idea of self transcendence, that we have to find meaning and identify that are beyond ourselves. And a lot of times this occurs right before we pass away, and 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 so this is why a lot of times grandparents are very needy because they want to be a part of people's lives. They want to have meaning, and that's why they want to be there. And so he developed, and this is something we found in his writing towards the end of his life that he had not published yet. So as we talk about self transcendence, I think of a guy by the name of Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a Jewish survival of the concentration camps, and he developed what is known as the logotherapy. And he said that we are motivated by the search for meaning. The meaning in life is the biggest question we have in life. And what he found was those who were in the concentration camps, who gave up any hope of meaning of life, were the more likely to pass away while being in the concentration camps. But those who hung to a higher level of meaning of life and believe, for this point, he's talking about his, his faith in God. Uh, those are the ones who were able to hold on and survive those horrible conditions. That's what self transcendence talks about. All right, so that is an introduction to the meaning of motivation, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow.